The massive ship appeared above Earth on a Tuesday morning. It was bigger than any city on the planet. Its shadow covered half of Europe as it hung in the sky like a dark cloud. People stopped their cars on highways. Workers left their offices to stare upward. Children pointed at the sky with wide eyes. For the first time in human history, everyone knew they were not alone in the universe. The ship sent a message to every screen on Earth. Every phone, every computer, every television showed the same face. It was not human. The creature had gray skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond shape. Its mouth was small, but its voice was loud and cold. "I am High Arbiter of the Galactic Council," the creature said. "Your planet has been discovered. You will now follow the laws of the Council." Park was eating breakfast when she saw the message. She was the youngest ambassador in Korean history. She was only 32 years old, but she had already served in 5 different countries. The government had called her back to Seoul just 3 days ago. Now she understood why. Her phone rang. It was the president. "Get to the emergency center," he said. "You are going to speak to them." Did not ask questions. She put on her jacket and ran to her car. The emergency center was hidden under a mountain outside Seoul. It had been built during the Cold War, but it had never been used until today. When arrived, she found the room full of military officers and government officials. General stood at the front of the room. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face that never smiled. "Ambassador Park," he said, "the aliens want to talk. You will represent Earth." Looked at the screens around the room. They showed the alien ship from different angles. It was so large that satellites had trouble capturing the whole thing in one image. "Why me?" she asked. "Because you are calm," General said, "and because you speak well. The other world leaders will join by video, but you will be the voice of Earth." Nodded. She was afraid, but she did not show it. She had learned long ago that showing fear only made things worse. The communication began 1 hour later, appeared on the main screen. Behind him could see other aliens. Some looked like, but others were different. One had scales like a fish. Another had no face at all, just smooth skin where eyes and mouth should be. This was the Galactic Council. "Humans," said, "your planet is now part of our territory. You have no choice in this matter. Our ships are stronger than your weapons. Our technology is older than your civilization. You will accept our rule." Spoke carefully. "We understand you are powerful, but what do you want from us?" Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We want tribute. Every new species must pay tribute to the Council. This is the law." "What kind of tribute?" Workers said, 1,000 of your people. They will serve the Council for the rest of their lives. They will work in our mines, clean our ships, and build our cities. In return, we will not destroy your planet." The room went silent. Felt her heart beat faster, but she kept her face calm. "You want us to give you slaves," she said. "We call them tribute workers," replied. "The word does not matter. You have 30 of your days to select 1,000 humans and deliver them to our ship. If you refuse, we will take what we want by force, and we will take much more than 1,000. The screen went black. The room exploded with angry voices. Military officers shouted about fighting back. Politicians argued about what to do, but General raised his hand and everyone fell silent. "We cannot fight them," he said. "Our weapons cannot even scratch their ships. We have already tried." "So we just give them our people," someone shouted. "We let them take our citizens as slaves." Lee stepped forward. She was the defense chief, a small woman with sharp eyes and a quick mind. She had been quiet until now, but noticed she had been thinking hard. "What if we give them exactly what they asked for?" said. General frowned. "What do you mean?" "They want 1,000 humans. They did not say what kind of humans." A small smile appeared on his face. "We have prisons full of the most dangerous people on Earth, killers, thieves, hackers who brought down entire governments. What if we send them?" The room went quiet again, but this time it was a different kind of quiet. People were thinking. "That is insane," someone said. "Those people are monsters." "Exactly," replied. "Monsters that we have been paying to keep in cages. Monsters that cost us billions every year. Monsters that will never change." Understood immediately. She felt a strange excitement growing in her chest. The council thinks we are weak. They think we will send them our best and our doctors, our engineers, our farmers, people who will work hard and cause no trouble. But instead, continued, we send them our worst, people who have spent their whole lives breaking rules and fighting systems, people who have nothing to lose. General rubbed his chin. It is risky. If the council finds out what we have done, they may destroy us anyway. They will find out eventually, said. But by then, it will be too late. These prisoners will cause chaos. They will disrupt whatever the council is trying to build. And maybe, just maybe, they will give us time to prepare. The president's face appeared on one of the screens. He had been watching the whole conversation. "Do it," he said. "Contact every prison on Earth. Find the worst of the worst. People with no families. People with nothing left to lose. People who would rather die fighting than live as slaves." Felt the weight of the moment. They were about to do something that had never been done before. They were going to use their criminals as weapons. "There is one more thing," she said. "We need someone to manage this. Someone who understands these prisoners. Someone they might actually listen to." Nodded. "I know someone. His name is Wu. He runs the maximum security prison in. He has been working with the worst criminals for 20 years. If anyone can organize this, he can." And so the plan began. While the world panicked and governments argued, a small group of people in Korea started making lists. Names of prisoners, crimes they had committed, skills they had learned. Each name was a weapon waiting to be fired. The council had asked for tribute. Humanity was about to give them something much more dangerous. Wu had seen many terrible things in his life. He had worked in prisons for 20 years. He had met killers who smiled while they talked about their crimes. He had seen men so dangerous that guards refused to enter their cells alone, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. He stood in front of 1,000 prisoners in the largest prison yard in Asia. The sun was hot and the air smelled like sweat and fear. These were not ordinary criminals. These were the worst people from every country on Earth. They had been brought here over the past 3 weeks. Some had come from America, others from Russia, China, Brazil, and dozens of other nations. They spoke different languages. They had different skin colors, but they all had one thing in common. They were dangerous. "Listen carefully," Wu said through a speaker system. "I am going to tell you something that will change your lives. You can choose to believe me or not, but what I say is true." The prisoners watched him with cold eyes. They did not trust anyone. Trust was a weakness in their world. "Aliens are real," Wu continued. "A ship is floating above our planet right now. These aliens have demanded 1,000 humans as slaves, and you are the lucky ones who have been chosen." Some prisoners laughed, others cursed. A few looked confused. "This is not a joke," Wu said. "In 3 days you will board a shuttle and fly up to that ship. You will leave Earth forever. You will never see your families again. You will never eat your favorite food again. You will never feel rain on your face again." The laughter stopped. Now everyone was listening. "The governments of Earth have decided to send you because you are the worst of the worst. They think you are garbage. They think you have no value. They want to get rid of you." Wu paused. He could see anger building in their eyes. Good. Anger was useful. "But I think differently," he said. "I think you are exactly what these aliens deserve. They want weak slaves who will follow orders. Instead, they are getting warriors, fighters, people who have never followed a rule in their lives." A man in the front row stepped forward. His name was Jin. He was tall and muscular, with scars covering his arms and neck. He had been a gang leader before his arrest. He had controlled half of the criminal underworld in East Asia. The guards had wanted to kill him many times, but they were too afraid. "Why should we care?" Jin asked. "Whether we die here or die up there, we are still dead." Wu smiled. "Because up there you will have a chance. Down here you rot in a cell until you stop breathing. Up there you might actually do something. You might cause trouble. You might break things. You might make these aliens regret ever coming to Earth." Jin stared at Wu for a long moment. Then he started to laugh, not a mocking laugh but a real one, a laugh of understanding. "You want us to make their lives hell," Jin said. "Yes," Wu replied. "That is exactly what I want." The other prisoners began to talk among themselves. The idea was spreading. They were not being thrown away. They were being sent as weapons. And for people who had nothing left to lose, that was the best offer they had ever received. Over the next 3 days, Wu worked with the prisoners. He learned their names, their skills, their crimes. There were hackers who had stolen billions from banks. There were assassins who had killed for money. There were soldiers who had committed war crimes. There were thieves, liars, and each one was a specialist in chaos. A woman named Shin approached Wu on the second day. She was small and quiet, with eyes that missed nothing. She had been a spy before she was caught. She had sold secrets to 5 different countries. No one knew her real loyalties. Maybe she did not know herself. "You are not telling them everything," she said to Wu. He looked at her carefully. "What do you mean?" "This plan, it is not just about causing trouble. You want something bigger. You want us to start a fire that burns down the whole system." Wu said nothing, but his silence was an answer. "I will help you," said, "but I want something in return." "What?" "Freedom, real freedom, not just escaping a cell. I want to be truly free for the first time in my life." Wu nodded. "If this works, you will have more freedom than you can imagine. The galaxy is very big, and once you are up there, no one from Earth can touch you." Smiled. It was a cold smile, but there was hope in it. On the 3rd day, the shuttles arrived. They were smaller than the main ship, but still bigger than any airplane humans had ever built. They landed in the prison yard, crushing the fences beneath their metal feet. The prisoners lined up. Some were scared. Others were excited. A few tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Guards with alien weapons stood at every exit. The council was not taking any chances. Ambassador Park came to watch the departure. She stood next to Wu as the prisoners began to board the shuttles. "Do you think this will work?" she asked quietly. Wu watched Jin walk up the ramp. The big man turned and gave Wu a small nod, a promise. "I think," Wu said, "that we are about to find out what happens when you put a fire in a cage and expect it not to burn." The shuttles filled one by one. 1,000 prisoners from Earth. 1,000 problems that humanity no longer wanted. 1,000 opportunities for chaos. Han was one of the last to board. He was older than most of the others, with white hair and a calm face. He had been a military officer once, before he led a failed revolution. He had spent 15 years in prison for trying to overthrow a government. Now he was being sent to the stars. "I never thought I would leave Earth," he said to no one in particular. "I always thought I would die in that cell." "Now you might die among the stars," another prisoner said. Han smiled. "That sounds much better." The doors closed. The engines roared. The shuttles lifted off the ground, rising higher and higher into the sky. People all over the world watched on their screens. Some prayed for the prisoners. Others celebrated their departure. But most just watched in silence, wondering what would happen next. High Arbiter watched the shuttles approach his ship. He felt satisfied. The humans had followed orders. They had sent their tribute workers without a fight. Perhaps this species was not as troublesome as he had feared. "Scan them," he ordered his crew. "Make sure they are healthy." The scans came back positive. 1,000 humans in good physical condition. Perfect for the mines of Sector 7. perfect for cleaning the waste systems of the council stations, perfect for all the jobs that no civilized species wanted to do. Excellent, said. Begin processing, assign them to work groups, and make sure they understand the rules. Disobedience will be punished by death. He did not notice the small smiles on some of the human faces. He did not see the way they looked at each other, already planning. He did not understand that these were not ordinary humans. As the prisoners were led into the ship, Jin whispered to the ones near him, "Remember what we are here for. Do not fight yet. Learn their systems, find their weaknesses, make friends with other slaves, and when the time is right, we show them what humans can really do." The others nodded. The plan had begun. Far below on Earth, Wu stood in the empty prison yard. The shuttles were gone, the prisoners were gone, but something had started today, something that could not be stopped. He looked up at the sky and spoke quietly, knowing no one could hear him. "Make us proud." 3 weeks passed on the council station. The human prisoners learned to survive in their new world. They worked in the mines, pulling rocks from deep underground. They cleaned the massive hallways of the station, scrubbing floors until their hands bled. They carried heavy boxes from one end of the station to the other, while alien guards watched them with cold eyes. But they also watched back, and they learned. Jin noticed everything. He noticed that the guards changed shifts every 6 hours. He noticed that certain doors were never locked because the aliens did not think the slaves were smart enough to open them. He noticed that there were other slaves on the station, creatures from dozens of different species, all wearing the same gray clothes as the humans. One night in the small room where the humans slept, Jin called a meeting. "We have learned enough," he said quietly. "It is time to start causing problems." A young man named raised his hand. He had been a hacker before his arrest. He had broken into the most secure computer systems on Earth. Here on the station, he had spent his free time studying the alien technology. "I can get into their systems," said. "Their security is strange, but it is not as good as they think. I just need access to a terminal." "Where can we find one?" Jin asked. "The supply room, on level 3. The guards leave it unattended for 10 minutes every day during their meal break." Jin nodded. "Good, tomorrow you will go there, we'll watch your back." Shin had become Jin's second in command. Her spy training made her perfect for gathering information. She knew which aliens could be bribed, which ones were cruel, and which ones secretly hated the council as much as the slaves did. "There is something else," said. "I have been talking to the other slaves, the blue ones with 6 legs. They are called the Pollen. They have been slaves to the council for 200 years. They hate their masters, but they are too afraid to fight." "Can we trust them?" someone asked. "I think so," replied. "Their leader is named Vox. He is old and tired, but there is still fire in him. If we show them that fighting is possible, they might join us." Han, the former military officer, spoke up. "We need to be careful. If we move too fast, the council will crush us. We need to cause small problems first, test their response, find their weaknesses." "The old man is right," Jin agreed. "We start small, tomorrow breaks into their systems. He does not destroy anything yet, he just looks around, learns. Then we make our next move." The plan went perfectly. Slipped into the supply room during the guards' meal break. The alien terminal looked nothing like Earth computers, but the basic ideas were the same. Data moved in patterns. Security had holes, and was very good at finding holes. He downloaded maps of the station. He found schedules for the guards. He discovered where the weapons were stored. And he found something even more valuable: a list of all the slaves on the station and where they came from. "There are 12 different species here," he reported to Jin that night. "Over 5,000 slaves in total. We are the smallest group." "But we are the most dangerous," Jin said. "That is what matters." The next week the problems began. Small problems at first. Doors that should have been locked were found open. Tools disappeared and reappeared in strange places. Food supplies went missing, only to be found in the wrong storage rooms. The guards could not understand what was happening. They blamed each other. They blamed the computer systems. They never blamed the human slaves because humans were too stupid to cause such problems. Or so they thought. After a month, the problems got bigger. A mining machine broke down, stopping work for 2 days. The lights on level 5 went out and stayed out for a week. A fire started in the waste processing center, destroying equipment worth millions. High Arbiter received reports of these problems with growing anger. He called his station commander to explain. "These are normal accidents," the commander said nervously. "Nothing unusual." "Normal accidents do not happen this often," replied. "Find the cause, fix it, or I will find someone who can." But the cause could not be found. The humans were too clever. They left no evidence. They used the confusion to explore more of the station, to make more contacts with other slaves, to build their network of resistance. Shin met with Vox, the leader of the Pollen, in a dark corner of the station. The alien was strange to look at. His body was covered in blue fur, and he moved on 6 thin legs like a giant spider. But his eyes were kind, and his voice was gentle. "You are causing these problems," Vox said. It was not a question. "Did not deny it. Yes, we are." "Why?" "Because we refuse to be slaves. Because we would rather die fighting than live on our knees. Because your council made a mistake when they took us." Vox was silent for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a sigh. "My people have been slaves for 200 years, he said. "We have forgotten how to fight. We have forgotten how to hope. But watching you, it reminds us of what we used to be." "Join us," said. "Together we can do more than cause problems. We can change everything." "It is dangerous." "Everything worth doing is dangerous." Vox looked at her with his 4 eyes. Each eye was a different color: blue, green, gold, and red. They seemed to glow in the darkness. "I will talk to my people," he said finally. "I cannot promise anything, but I will talk." It was not a yes, but it was not a no, and that was enough for now. The biggest problem came 2 weeks later. Had been studying the station's power system. He found a weakness. A single point where all the power lines came together. If that point failed, the whole station would go dark. "I can make it look like an accident," he told Jin. "They will never know it was us." "Do it," Jin said. The blackout lasted 12 hours. During those 12 hours, chaos ruled the station. Guards ran in every direction trying to restore power. Slaves wandered freely through halls that were normally forbidden to them. And in the weapons storage room, a group of humans quietly took what they needed: energy rifles, stun grenades, emergency knives. When the power came back on, no one noticed the missing weapons. There were too many other problems to deal with. Reports were written. Blame was assigned. Engineers were punished. But the real criminals remained hidden. That night, Jin held the first weapon his hands had touched in years. It was a small energy pistol, easily hidden under his clothes. It felt good. It felt like power. "We are not slaves anymore," he said to his people. "We are soldiers, and soon we will show them what soldiers can do." Far away on Earth, Ambassador Park received a strange message on her personal computer. It had no sender name. It had no subject line. It contained only 3 words. "It has begun." She smiled and deleted the message. Then she walked to her window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, her people were fighting, her criminals, her weapons. And they were winning. The uprising began at dawn, station time. Jin had planned every detail. He knew which guards to attack first. He knew which doors to lock and which to leave open. He knew exactly how many seconds they had before reinforcements arrived. "Now," he said into the small radio he had stolen from a guard. All across the station, humans moved at once. They attacked with speed and surprise. Guards were knocked unconscious before they could call for help. Weapons were taken. Control rooms were captured. Within 30 minutes, the humans controlled 3 entire levels of the station. But Jin knew this was not enough. 30 minutes was nothing. The Council had thousands of soldiers. They had ships with weapons that could destroy planets. A few hundred humans with stolen guns could not win against that. Unless they were not alone. Vox and the Pollen made their choice that morning. For 200 years, they had been slaves. For 200 years, they had watched their children taken away to work in mines on distant planets. For 200 years, they had accepted their fate because they saw no other option. But watching the humans fight changed something inside them. These small, strange creatures from a tiny planet had dared to resist. They had caused chaos. They had taken weapons. They had refused to accept slavery. If the humans could fight, so could the Pollen. Vox led his people into the battle with a roar that shook the walls. 500 Pollen rushed through the hallways, their 6 legs carrying them faster than any human could run. They had no weapons, but they did not need them. Their claws were sharp enough to cut through metal. Their bodies were strong enough to throw guards across rooms. The Council forces did not expect this. They had been told that the Pollen were peaceful, that they had been broken long ago, that they would never fight back. They were wrong. Other species saw what was happening and made their own choices. The small reptile-like creatures who had been slaves for 50 years joined the fight. The tall beings with gray skin and 3 arms picked up weapons dropped by fallen guards. Even species that had never worked together before found common cause in this moment. By noon, the uprising had spread beyond a single station. News traveled fast through the slave networks. Stories of human prisoners starting a rebellion. Stories of the Pollen finally fighting back. Stories of guards running away in fear. These stories reached other stations, other mines, other slave ships throughout the sector. And everywhere they reached, slaves began a hope. On Mining Station 7, a human woman named O led a group of workers in taking over the main control room. She had been a thief on Earth, specializing in stealing from rich people who thought their security systems were perfect. Breaking into an alien control room was just another job to her. Send a message to all frequencies, she told her team. Tell everyone what is happening. Tell them they can fight too. The message went out. It spread from station to station, from ship to ship, from planet to planet. In simple words that translation programs could understand, it said the same thing over and over. The slaves are rising. Join us or get out of the way. High Arbiter received word of the rebellion while he was eating his morning meal. At first, he did not believe it. How could slaves rebel? They had no weapons. They had no organization. They had been properly broken when they arrived. But the reports kept coming. Station 3 had fallen. Mining Colony 9 was under attack. The humans were leading, but they were not alone. Every species the Council had enslaved was joining the fight. Felt something he had not felt in centuries: fear. Send reinforcements, he ordered. Crush this rebellion immediately. But his commanders had bad news. The soldiers were spread across 12 star systems. It would take days to gather enough forces to fight back, and every hour the rebellion grew stronger. On the main station, Jin met with Vox and Han to plan their next move. They had captured 4 levels, but the Council still controlled the docking bays and the weapon systems. If reinforcements arrived, they would all be killed. We need to take the command center, Jin said. If we control their communications, we can call for help from other rebel groups. We can coordinate our attacks. The command center is heavily guarded, Vox warned. My people have never been allowed near it. We do not know what defenses they have. Han studied the maps that had stolen months ago. His military training helped him see things others missed. There is a maintenance tunnel here, he said, pointing to a small line on the map. It runs directly under the command center. It is probably too small for pollen or most aliens to fit through, but humans are smaller. Jin smiled. Then we send a human team. Pick your best people. You are going through that tunnel. Shin chose 5 fighters for the mission. They were criminals, all of them. A woman who had killed 12 people. A man who had escaped from every prison that ever held him. 3 soldiers who had been convicted of war crimes. On Earth, they had been monsters. Here, they were heroes. The tunnel was dark and narrow. They crawled on their bellies for almost an hour, pushing forward inch by inch. The sound of their breathing was loud in the small space, but they did not stop. They did not complain. They had survived worse things than crawling through a dirty tunnel. When they reached the command center, they struck fast and hard. The guards never saw them coming. One moment, everything was calm. The next moment, humans were everywhere, attacking with the desperate energy of people who had nothing to lose. The battle lasted only 3 minutes. When it was over, stood in front of the main communication screen. Her face was bloody, her arm was injured, but she was smiling. "This is a message to all slaves in the sector," she said into the speaker. "The command center is ours. The council cannot coordinate their forces. Now is the time to fight. Rise up, take your freedom. Show them that we will not be slaves anymore." Her message reached billions of beings across the galaxy. Slaves who had given up hope, workers who had accepted their fate, people who had never believed that change was possible. And many of them listened. Over the next week, rebellions broke out on 47 stations and 23 planets. Some were small, lasting only hours before council forces crushed them, but others succeeded. Slaves took control of ships. They captured weapons. They freed other slaves and added them to their armies. The council was in chaos. They had never faced anything like this before. For thousands of years, they had taken tribute from weaker species. They had built their empire on the backs of slaves. They had believed that their system was perfect, that no one would ever challenge them. They had been wrong. On Earth, Ambassador Park watched the news with wonder and fear. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Human faces on screens, talking about battles and victories. Alien faces, too, speaking in languages she did not understand but with emotions she recognized perfectly. Pride, hope, determination. General called her to a meeting. "The council has sent us a message," he said. "They want us to stop the rebellion. They threaten to destroy our planet if we do not help them." Thought about this for a moment, then she laughed. "How can we stop something we did not start? These prisoners do not follow our orders. They never did. That is why they were criminals." "Then what do we tell the council?" Smiled. It was the same cold smile she had worn on the day they decided to send prisoners instead of normal citizens. "Tell them nothing. Let them suffer. Let them learn what happens when you try to enslave humans." And far away, among the stars, the rebellion continued to grow. 6 months after the rebellion began, High Arbiter stood alone in his chambers. The room was dark. He had not allowed any lights for days. He preferred the darkness now. It matched the feeling in his heart. Everything had fallen apart. The rebellion that started with 1,000 human prisoners had grown into a war that spread across the galaxy. 12 star systems were now free of council control. Millions of slaves had thrown off their chains. Ships that once belonged to the council now flew under rebel flags. And it was all because of the humans. Thought about the day he had demanded tribute from Earth. He had felt so powerful then, so certain that these primitive creatures would bow to the council like everyone else. He had expected fear. He had expected submission. He had expected easy slaves who would work until they died. Instead, he had received warriors. A message arrived on his screen. It was from the Council of Elders, the highest authority in the galaxy. They had made a decision. The message read, "You will travel to Earth. You will negotiate an end to this conflict. You will do whatever the humans demand. If you fail, you will be executed for your crimes against the council." His hands shook as he read the words. Execute him, for following the same tribute laws that had existed for thousands of years. But he knew there was no point in arguing. The council needed someone to blame, and he was the one who had started all of this. 3 weeks later, ship entered Earth's solar system. It was a small ship without weapons, a ship of surrender. The great High Arbiter who had once threatened to destroy entire planets was now coming to beg for peace. Ambassador Park waited for him in Seoul. She had prepared a room for the meeting, a simple room with a plain table and 2 chairs. She wanted to understand that Earth did not need fancy things to prove its power. When walked into the room, was surprised by how old he looked. His gray skin was pale and thin. His 4 eyes were tired. He moved like someone who had given up. "Ambassador Park," he said. His voice was quiet, nothing like the booming tone he had used when he first contacted Earth. "I am here to discuss terms." "Sit down," said. She did not offer him food or water. She did not ask about his journey. There was no need for politeness. This was business. Sat, his hands folded on the table. He waited. "Before we begin," said, "I want you to understand something. 6 months ago, you came to our planet and demanded slaves. You threatened to destroy us if we did not obey. You treated us like animals, like things to be used and thrown away." Said nothing. His eyes looked at the table. "We sent you our worst people," continued. "Our criminals, our killers, our monsters, and those monsters burned down your empire. They freed millions of slaves. They showed the galaxy that the Council is not as powerful as it pretends to be." "I know," whispered. "I made a terrible mistake." "Yes, you did, and now you will pay for it." Pushed a paper across the table. On it was a list of demands. Simple words, clearly written, impossible to misunderstand. "First," she said, "the tribute system ends. Forever. No species will ever be forced to give slaves to the Council again." Nodded slowly. "Second, all current slaves are freed. Every single one. They can choose to stay where they are, return to their home planets, or go anywhere else they want." Another nod. "Third, the Council will pay reparations to every species that was enslaved. Money, resources, technology, whatever is needed to help them rebuild their lives." This time hesitated. "The Council does not have unlimited resources. This will be difficult." "I do not care about your difficulties," said coldly. "Your Council stole the lives and labor of billions of beings. Now you will give something back. If it is difficult, then that is the price you pay." Looked at her for a long moment, then he signed the paper. "Is there anything else?" he asked. Smiled. It was not a kind smile. "One more thing. You will make a public announcement to the entire galaxy. You will tell everyone what happened. You will admit that the Council was wrong. You will tell them that the human prisoners defeated you. And you will thank Earth for teaching the galaxy how to fight." His face twisted with anger. For a moment, thought he might refuse. This was the greatest humiliation possible, to admit defeat to the whole galaxy, to thank the species that had destroyed his empire. But then the anger faded, was too tired to fight anymore. "I will do it," he said. 2 days later, the announcement went out to every planet in the galaxy. Spoke to billions of beings, his words translated into thousands of languages. "The Council made a mistake," he said. "We asked Earth for tribute workers. Earth sent us prisoners. These prisoners started a rebellion that freed millions of slaves. The tribute system is now abolished. All slaves are free, and we have the humans to thank for this. Their criminals showed us that slavery cannot last forever. Their worst people became the galaxy's greatest heroes." On the main rebel station, Jin watched the announcement with his followers. The room was crowded with humans and pollen and dozens of other species. They had fought together, bled together, lost friends together, and now they had won together. "We did it," Shin said quietly. She stood next to Jin, her eyes wet with tears she refused to let fall. We actually did it. Jin put his hand on her shoulder. We burned it all down, just like we promised. Han raised a glass of alien drink that none of them could pronounce. To freedom, he said. To chaos. To the criminals who saved the galaxy. Everyone drank. Back on Earth, Wu received a message. It came from space, from a station that no longer belonged to the Council. The message was from Jin. "You were right," it said. "We made them proud, and we are not coming back. There is a whole galaxy out there, a galaxy that needs people like us, people who know how to break things, people who refuse to follow rules. We will keep fighting, keep causing trouble, keep making the universe a more interesting place. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for seeing what we could become." Wu read the message 3 times. Then he smiled and deleted it. The prisoners were gone. The criminals had become heroes. And somewhere among the stars, the worst of humanity was doing the best work of their lives. Ambassador Park gave her final report to the world leaders. She stood in front of cameras, speaking to billions of people who had spent 6 months wondering what was happening in space. "The rebellion is over," she said. "The Council has surrendered. Slavery in the galaxy has ended. And it all happened because we refused to give up our best people. Instead, we sent our worst. And those people, those criminals that we had thrown away, changed the entire universe." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Let this be a lesson. Do not judge people by their past. Do not assume that broken people cannot do great things. The galaxy thought humans were weak and easy to control. They learned differently. And our prisoners, the ones we sent away because we thought they had no value, became the spark that lit a fire across the stars." Years later, history books would tell the story. The story of the Council that demanded tribute and received chaos instead. The story of 1,000 criminals who became freedom fighters. The story of humanity's strange gift to the galaxy. And in those books, the last line was always the same. The Council asked for slaves. Humanity sent them something better. Humanity sent them hope.